China issued a $2 billion bond in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi government will pay back in oil. China will use the money to fund infrastructure projects around the world. And developing countries will pay back the debt with digital yuans. Re-dollarization has started. This means that China will essentially be competing with the US Treasury in the global dollar market. Instead of countries like Saudi Arabia automatically channel the dollars into the US Treasury bonds, they could opt out to invest in Chinese dollar bonds offering comparable interest rates. This is what happened. In Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, China has made a deal. So they issue a new type of government bond, like debt, of $2 billion. What are the three key interesting things about this and why this is relevant for your investment opportunities? Number one, the interest rates that were offered by China were pretty good, and the premium that the Saudi government had to pay was very small. What does it mean? Well, let me explain. Normally, when governments, for example, the Sri Lankan government, issue bonds with US denominated dollars, the problem is they had a premium very high, up to 9%, but because they needed that money to fund their projects. Also, the Chinese company Alibaba did the same, but they have to raise 1.5%. But now imagine that the Chinese government is just 0.002%. So that means that it's almost as good as getting a bond directly from the United States of America. So this is the interesting thing. Now China is testing the possibility of issuing a government bond in US dollars with a very small premium. And this changes the game completely. Another thing was $2 billion, which you will say is not a lot of money, but it had an interest of 20 times that amount of money. And why is that? And why they choose Saudi Arabia? And how this could be a new way for the BRICS to start competing with the US using the US dollar. Let's think about Saudi Arabia. In 1974, when the king made a deal with the US government via Henry Kissinger. The key thing was, okay, number one, if you're gonna sell oil should always sell in US dollars. So you can sell oil and get US dollars. Okay, cool. Second, the riyal, your national currency, should be pegged, like connected one-to-one with the US dollar. Okay, cool. And in that way, what it creates is a dependency between Saudi Arabia, one of the largest oil producers in the world and one of the most important members of the OPEC, to always do business in US dollars. And they care about the US dollar, but they have a lot of US dollars. The second element is that Saudi Arabia, since the new prince has come with projects such as NEOM and other ways to transform Riyadh, you can see from big conference to football players like Cristiano Ronaldo to events that you even have a beautiful woman almost naked doing events in Riyadh and in other parts of Saudi. It's changing culturally, because it's opening businesses to the world. And this opening of businesses, they said, okay, we normally buy bonds from the US government directly. What are the bonds used from the US government? To build their infrastructure and finance their projects. But now China has said, okay, now let's experiment and go beyond, because in that way, China also has one of the largest surplus of US dollars in the world, more than $850 billion. And China is one of the largest partners in terms of economy with most countries around the world, including the US. But China has another element, the One Belt, One Road initiative, which is the largest initiative inspired by the Silk Road, how you could connect countries around the world to exercise trade. So China, a couple of years ago, started to finance infrastructure projects all around the world, from Asia, Africa, and Xi Jinping inaugurated a port in Peru. So Latin America is also included in this process of the One Belt, One Road initiative. Of course, it has many problems because sometimes some projects in certain countries, specifically in Africa, don't make sense, and they have invested billions of dollars doing that. So that's another topic for other video. But the key thing is the One Belt, One Road is being built and connected. And there's another factor, which is the digital yuan. Remember that China has been testing their central bank digital currency for the past years. And because when you go to China, and I remember when I visited Dalian, it was incredible just using WeChat or Alipay to do everything. Like the most advanced apps in the world to really do payments are Chinese apps. We have to recognize it, even though I love TransferWise and Revolut, which I think are very close. And I love Nubank from Latin America. But the key thing is that they're pretty good at doing that. So they started to integrate the digital yuan as part of payments, and people started to pay within WeChat with those mini programs with digital yuan. So what is the plan of China? What are they doing this with Saudi Arabia, and why Saudi Arabia gets benefit? Well, what is going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years is that China will replicate this experiment of these US denominated bonds from countries that they can send oil instead of dollars. So look, the interesting thing. Remember that Saudi can only sell oil in dollars. Well, now by acquiring this 2 billion bond, they will say, I will not send you the $2 billion. No, I will send you $2 billion in oil. And then China, because it has so much money, it can use the money from the $2 billion and lend to the countries around the world that are signatories of the One Belt, One Road. Therefore, countries such as Peru, they can build major ports, they can build roads, and they can build great infrastructure. That every country needs infrastructure. That's the soft power that China is exercising right now. And then the last piece of the puzzle will be China asking these countries that are members of the One Belt, One Road to pay them back, but not in US dollars. They want them to pay them back in digital yuans. So in that way, that will in some way force these countries to transform either their digital currency or their dollars into digital yuans so they can pay back their loans, because the mere reason of me paying you in digital yuans instead of dollars or in yuans is because the Chinese government will offer a discount. And if you're building a $1 billion project and they give you a 3 to 5% discount, if I'm paying, that's 30 to 50 million dollars. That's a lot of money. So it will be a real incentive for signatories of the One Belt, One Road to start paying back their debts for the infrastructure projects that will connect the One Belt, One Road in digital yuans. And therefore the digital yuan will start to become a very powerful currency, that then this currency will be integrated into the ecosystem of stable coins and other digital currencies. So this is how the world will start to change. From countries that have excess of dollars and they want to diversify, like Saudi Arabia, and they want also the support and investment from countries such as China, the factory of the world. So it's going to be very interesting. And all of these elements have been played by Xi Jinping. He is the one that started the process of the One Belt, One Road. He's the one that began and kickstarted the process of the digital yuan. He's the one that started the process for BRICS. And now he's the one that has decided to go to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to launch this Chinese bond with low premium denominated in US dollars. Very interesting things are going to happen from a geopolitical element. And you, as an investor, should always think where are the opportunities and where the opportunities will be. Right now, you can invest in bonds, which are government debt that you can invest right now. And I made another video, actually, I'm putting the video right now, so you can now start investing in bonds. So thank you very much. Let me know in the comments what other elements do you want me to cover in all these processes. Someone actually is coloring de-dollarization. What is the conclusion of all of this? The dollar will still be very powerful. And that's an essential element to consider for the next 10, 20, even 30 years in the future. Thank you very much. And remember, just subscribe.